you've done with the Society of Actuaries?
Yeah, so the communications clinic, we're training, media training, and PR firm, and we're based in Adelaide Road, and so we do a whole host of work. I'm a senior consultant in the training division, so I'd work across 3 major areas there, where we do media training and media preparation. We do corporate communications, which is, I suppose, my work I've done with the Actuaries, presentation skills, pitch preparation, meeting skills, and then we have a careers division, which I also happen to head up, where we prep people for job interviews. I've been lucky enough to work with the Society of Actuaries for a relatively long time at this stage. I spoke at this conference 2 years ago and last year. Now I've done some work with the new graduates in Druids Glen, and I've done individual work around a lot of presentation skills and meeting skills and negotiation skills with actuaries of all levels, really. So I feel I know actuaries relatively well at this stage.
And what's your perception of actuaries relative to some of the other professions that you would have worked with? Anything stand out?
There's 2 major, I suppose, perceptions I would have of actuaries. Number one is you all are very critical of your profession's ability to communicate. I think you believe the media hype about actuaries not being the best communicators, when really anybody in an analytical profession falls into the same mistakes or lacks the same techniques. And a lot of that would tend to be, I'd see with actuaries, I'd see with accountants as well. You're very logical and cogent thinkers, which is brilliant. In terms of communications, though, you're very linear in your communication as well, where you give me all of the data and all of the statistics and all of the arguments, and eventually it leads to, and we must now make this decision. While for good communication, I need you to say, we must make this decision, and now here is why, so that I know what your point is, what it is that you're setting out to prove or convincing me of first, and then it's easier for me to store all of your arguments. Because if you don't give me the point first, I don't know what to do with all of the information until you give it to me straight away up front. What is your key point first, and elaborate around it. And it's that linear thinking that holds actuaries back in terms of communications, but it's any logical profession that deals with numbers falls into the same trap. So you're no worse than accountants, is what I'd say.
That's all we can hope for.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. What are the key softer skills, the non-technical skills that we should be focusing on as professionals?
The ability to verbally communicate, really, which can be pitch preparation. You can talk to us about meeting inputs. It can be presentation skills. We tend to divide them up and see them as very differently, but it's really at a base level. Do you know what it is that you're trying to say before you start talking, and can you convince me of it, or can you help me understand it and remember it? So in terms of soft skills, the ability to make a point for me would be the central one, knowing what you want to say before you start saying it. The other skill that's linked to that is knowing your audience. So again, it's not maybe one of the terms that we would see as let's do a course on knowing your audience, but it underpins everything. Who am I talking to? What do they understand? What terms do they understand maybe from what I live every single day? And then also, what do they care about and what do they find interesting? So that ability to analyze your audience and know who your audience is would be one of the other areas that people need to work on. That all gets wrapped up in, you need to know how to present, you need to know how to run a meeting and chair a meeting, you need to know how to pitch effectively if you're going out selling, you need to know how to build relationships, you need to know how to network effectively, which is what we're talking about today. But a lot of the same principles underpin all of those different areas.
And does that balance of skills change depending on where you are in your career? Are there things that are more important to you at the kind of start of your career than maybe as you get towards a more senior level? Or is it the underlying principles that matter most? The
underlying principles matter most, but your chances and your ability to get to use them, I suppose, vary as your career goes along. So I would say always your ability to listen, ask questions, engage with people is always very, very important. But you get more of a chance to do that when you're more junior because you've less of a chance to talk, and so you can hone those skills earlier. Similarly, I would think your ability to present, to public speak, to make a point, to make an impact is always important. But the more senior you get, the more of an opportunity you get to flex that muscle and to use that muscle. So you should be looking for opportunities to learn how to present earlier, so that when you're more senior you get the opportunity that you're ready, and you shouldn't forget how important listening is, as people are more willing to listen to you talk, which can happen to people as they get more senior.
Sure, okay, makes sense. You were talking today then about networking, and I guess that's something that to a lot of us strikes fear into the heart, the idea of being at a conference and you're at that reception, you've taken the glass of wine off the tray, you're looking around the room, there's groups of 2 or 3 people. What's my next move? Where do I go from there? What are the kind of quick tips for somebody in that situation?
Yeah, so if you find yourself in that situation and you do find it awkward, as lots of people do, because it's quite an awkward interaction, it's not the most natural position to be in, so it's absolutely natural to feel awkward, and don't think that everybody else in the room also doesn't feel awkward. So that's one thing, have that awareness of everybody's feeling that way, they're just not maybe showing that they're feeling that way. The second point then would be set yourself an objective. So walk in the room knowing, what must I do here in order for the next hour to be worth my while? Not what should I do, or not what might occur to me, or look, if I feel comfortable I might. Before you walk into the room, what must I do to make this worth my while? That can be, I must talk to those 2 people and find out something about them. I must get that person's email address because I've really wanted to meet them for a coffee for a long while. It might just be, I will talk to 3 brand new people. But set yourself an objective. And then if you don't hit that objective, tell yourself, you failed there, why did you fail? You might have a genuine reason, and that's fine, but more than likely it will just be, I felt awkward, I didn't get the chance. If you have an objective, you would make yourself have the chance, and you'll do it. And the third final tip is bring a friend. And it seems very obvious, but bring a friend. Don't be overly reliant on them, but have somebody that you can go back to if you do a circle of the room and you didn't meet the right person. Have somebody you can walk towards just to make yourself feel a bit more comfortable. So force somebody to come with you.
The other thing people struggle with in that situation, you've sort of broken the ice, you've got to talk to somebody, you're having a chat, and you sort of feel like your time has run its course with that person, but you're in a one-on-one conversation, you need to go and further your objectives somewhere else. But what are good ways of sort of gently extricating yourself from that situation without sort of seeming rude or causing offense?
It's difficult. It's difficult to do. You're probably going to have to stay in that conversation a little bit longer than you would like to, as you're looking for your exit or looking for your avenue out of there. And so maybe the first piece of advice is just be a bit more comfortable with it, that even if you do feel it's run its road, maybe it hasn't. Maybe you can ask a few more questions. Maybe you can get them talking a bit more. Just because you've run out of things to say, or just because you've stopped finding the person interesting, doesn't necessarily mean that the conversation should be over. And maybe ask them a few more questions, get them talking a bit more. When you do then need to leave, a lot of time it's just saying, apologies, I really wanted to talk to that person over there, I'll circle back to you. Have a friend that you can go over to, just about kind of nice and casually and calmly removing yourself, but give yourself somewhere that you're going to, rather than just moving off and then standing next to them again 2 minutes later. Once you say you're moving off, you have to go to the other side of the room and then start a conversation with somebody else. But I would say that we're maybe sometimes too eager to cut off those conversations when there might be something else that you could have got from it.
You mentioned the importance of developing your personal brand and your professional brand, and not just for networking purposes, but for lots of purposes. Could you expand a little bit on the idea of professional brand and the challenges of developing one?
Absolutely. So look, in my view, your professional brand is just, what do people think of you? So what is it that if you were to give somebody a piece of paper and say, look, write down what are the 3 or 4 words that would come to mind when you think of me, what would they write down? Now, in an Irish context, we tend to almost automatically think negative there. What are the bad things somebody would say to me? But for the most part, it's a very positive experience. It's that people see you as absolutely competent in what you do. They see you as very, very confident. They see you as a strong decision maker. But you should be deciding, hang on, how do I want to be perceived as well? Because if you decide how you want to be perceived, that makes it much, much easier for you to make those key decisions to be seen in the right way. And it makes it easier to make the right decisions. So if you want to be seen as a good communicator, but you're naturally a bit quiet in meetings, well, you're not going to be seen as a good communicator if you don't start speaking up in meetings. But if you leave it up to how you naturally feel, you'll still sit in the meeting and not say anything. If you have decided for 6 months, I want to be seen as a strong communicator and somebody who inputs and somebody who adds solutions, then you're in a meeting and you feel awkward and you don't want to speak. But that's now irrelevant because you've decided, well, what will help me hit my brand objective? And it's speaking in this meeting and being ready to speak and making sure you said it. So deciding how you want to be perceived by people is important as a decision-making tool to make sure that you make the right decisions.
So it sounds like, I think Actuaries, lots of people would have an impression that you're good at this stuff or you're not good at this stuff, that there's a kind of a sense of natural talent to it. I guess you work for a company that teaches communications, so I guess your perspective would be a little different.
Yeah, naturally enough, I'm now going to say you can absolutely learn how to present and communicate well, but you can, all right, 100%. And it's something that I push back on a lot, actually, because I hear it a lot of, I'm just not a natural speaker, I'm just not a confident speaker, I'm not comfortable in those situations. But it's not an innate skill, it's not a characteristic, it's an absolute learned skill that you can learn and that you can develop and that anybody can learn and develop. And one of the reasons I think that we look at other people who are good communicators and say, well, it must be a natural skill set and I'll never get there, is because people hide the amount of work that they do to become very good public speakers or very confident public speakers. If you see anybody who is a very, very good public speaker, I can almost guarantee that they either do or have in the past worked very, very hard at that skill. I'll give an example actually of Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, before every major Democratic debate, would for 2 weeks take an hour and a half go through full debates, record them, and watch them back step by step with his staff. Now, this is somebody who would be seen as one of the best natural communicators in a long, long time in American politics, and he is phenomenal at it, but he still works at it again and again, and did work at it again and again, so that he looked like he didn't work at it at all. So it's that thing of, it took me 2 hours to look like I woke up like this. It's people put a lot of work into making it look like they don't put any work at all. And so that verbal practice, that preparation is what makes you a good communicator, that and experience. But you can become good at it. And I've seen people who've gone from being wrecked with nerves in communication to speaking up in front of hundreds of people, and it is doable. And you just have to work at it.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Yeah.